Welcome to our video lesson on adding and subtracting fractions with different denominators. Please make sure you have your guided note in front of you and you're filling it in as we go. Before we can talk about adding and subtracting fractions, we need to talk about finding the least common denominator. The least common denominator is the least common multiple of the denominators of the two fractions. It's really important to know that it's the multiple. It's not the factor. But remember earlier in the year we talked about the difference between multiples and factors. Well, multiples are the ones that you multiply out. So we're going to find the LCD, the lowest common denominator, of 12 25ths and 2 fifths together. What we do is we find the multiples of their denominators. The multiples of 25 are 25 times 1, which is 25. 25 times 2, 50. 25 times 3, 75. 25 times 4, 100. Okay, let's talk about 5 now. The multiples of 5 are 5 times 1, 5. 5 times 2, 10. 5 times 3, 15. 5 times 4, 20. 5 times 5, 25. 5 times 6, 30. And I'm going to stop there. We want to find their least, so the smallest one that they have in common. And I actually see it. So the least common denominator in this situation is 25. Our next step would be to write both of these fractions over a denominator of 25. Well, for 12 25ths, we've already got that one done, so we're good for that one. Let's do it for 2 fifths. We need to go from 2 fifths to something over 25. What times 5 gives 25? Well, it's 5 times 5 that gives 25. And whatever we did to the denominator, we need to do to the numerator. We're just finding an equivalent fraction here. So we're going to multiply 2 times 5, and that gives us 10. So using our least common denominator, 2 fifths, we would rewrite it as 10 25ths. If you feel ready, I recommend you try the next example on your own and then click play afterwards to try and see if you got it right. If not, feel free to follow along with me. Okay, let's start it now. We need to find the least common denominator of 7/9 and 1/6. What we're going to do again is write out the multiples of both the denominators, so both 9 and 6. Okay, what are the multiples of 9? Start. 9 times 1 is 9. 9 times 2 is 18. 9 times 3 is 27. 9 times 4 is 36. 9 times 5 is 45. Let's stop there. Okay, let's do 6 now. 6 times 1 is 6. 6 times 2 is 12. 6 times 3 is 18. 6 times 4, 24. 6 times 5, 30. 6 times 6, 36. Ooh. I need to erase this just so I can fit it in here. So we have 30 and then 36. Okay, in this situation, we have 2 common multiples. Which one are we going to use? Keep in mind this word. We're going to use the least one, so that's the smallest one. So you're right, we're going to use 18. Now we need to write both of these fractions so that they have a denominator of 18. I'm going to erase some space up here so that I can do it right here. Okay, let's start with 7/9. We need to write it with a denominator of 18. So I know it's going to look like that. What do I do to 9 to make it 18? Hopefully you said multiply it by 2. Okay, whatever I did to the denominator, I have to do the same thing to the numerator to make that equivalent fraction. So it's 7 times 2 gives 14. And that's 7/9 written with its least common denominator. Let's do the same thing with 1/6. Okay, so I need to get 1/6 into an equivalent fraction with a denominator of 18. How do I get from 6 to 18? We multiply it by 3. Great. Whatever we do to the denominator, we do the same thing to the numerator. So it's 1 times 3. We have 3/18. So there's our fractions written in with their least common denominator. Let's move on to some more complicated stuff. Now we're going to talk about the steps to solving problems, addition and subtraction problems with fractions with different denominators. Please write these 4 steps down. The first one is to find the LCD, or the least common denominator, what we just did. Step 2, rewrite each fraction using the LCD. We just did that too. Number 3 is to solve, and number 4 is to simplify. Once you have these steps written down, move on to the examples. Okay, our first example is 1/4 plus 1/3. We're going to follow our steps. Step number 1 is to find the LCD, or the least common denominator. That means we need to find the LCD of 4 and 3, our denominators. And remember, we're using multiples, not factors. So what's 4 times 1? 4. 4 times 2? 8. 4 times 3? 12. 4 times 4? 16. Sorry about that, guys. It's a little squished under there. But that's 16, and I'm going to stop there. 3 times 1 is 3. 3 times 2 is 6. 3 times 3 is 9. 3 times 4 is 12, and it looks like we have a match. Our least common denominator for 1/4 and 1/3 will be 12. Okay, now we can do step 2. Step 2 is to rewrite each fraction using our least common denominator. Okay, so I need to rewrite 1/4 as something over 12. What do I do to 4 to get 12? 4 times 3 gives 12, and whatever I do to the denominator, I'm going to do the same thing to the numerator. So 3 times 1 is 3. Let's do 1/3 now. We're going to rewrite 1/3 using our least common denominator of 12. What do I do to 3 to get 12? I multiply it by 4. Whatever I do to the denominator, I need to do it to the numerator. 1 times 4 is 4. Okay, now I'm done step 2. And now I need to solve it. So I'm going to rewrite my question, which was 1/4 plus 1/3, using my new fractions. So instead of writing 1/4, I'm going to write 3/12. And instead of writing 4 or 1/3, I'm going to write 4/12. And then you go, yippee, I know how to do this. This is what we've already done. We just add the numerators together. So we have 3 plus 4 all over 12. And that gives me 7 over 12. So I've done my solving. Step 4 is to simplify. Can I simplify 7/12? No, it's already in simplest form. So that means we're done number 1. Please try number 2 on your own. Press pause, and then I'll explain it after you've finished it. So our first step is to find the lowest common denominator of 2/5 and 3/8. So I'm going to write the multiples, not the fractions, the multiples of 5 and 8. 5 times 1 is 5. 5. 5 times 2 is 10. 5 times 3 is 15. 5 times 4 is 20. 5 times 5 is 25. 5 times 6 is 30. 5, oh, I'm going to erase this here so that I have some more space. 5 times 7 is 35. And 5 times 8 is 40. 5 times 9, 45. And I'm going to end there. Now it's time for 8. 8 times 1 is 8. 8 times 2 is 16. 8 times 3 is 24. 8 times 4 is 32. 8 times 5 is 40. And ding, 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 we can stop because we have a match. 40. So in this situation, our least common denominator will be 40. And I need to go from 2/5 to something with a denominator of 40. How do I get from 5 to 40? Well, that's simple. I multiply it by 8. Now we need to do the same thing with the numerator. What's 2 times 8? It's 16. Okay, now we need to do the same thing with 3/8. How do I get from 8 to 40? Then you're going to, 8 to 40 is times 5. Whatever I did to the denominator, same thing to the numerator. 3 times 5 is 15. Now I'm going to rewrite my question, so I have 2/5 plus 3/8, and instead of 2/5, I'm going to write 16/40, and instead of 3/8, I'm going to write 15/40, and then yippee, I know how to do this. 16 plus 15 over 40 is all equal to 31/40. Okay, now step 4, can I simplify this? And I know that 31 is a prime number, which means its only factors are 1 in itself. So that means that it's already in simplest form. Now this one's a subtraction one. It's exactly the same steps, except for instead of adding, you subtract. I would like you to do this one on your own. I'm not going to give you the steps for it. Follow along, please, and I'll write down the answer. So pause the video now and do this on your own. Welcome back. I hope that went well. Your answer should be 7/12. If you got something else or you're not sure, please try it again. And then if you're still not sure, please ask me and I'll help you with it. Okay, now it's time for our word problem. You need to make sure that you cube this word problem. If you don't remember the steps for cube, look on the corner of your desk or the poster on the wall. Cube. Pause it now and cube it on your own. Make sure when you circle things, you circle the units and the number. So we have 2/3 of a yard and 1/2 of a yard. Don't see. You underline important math words. Left would be an important math word. How much? B, box the question. E, eliminate unimportant information. We don't have any unimportant information, so don't worry about that one. Now you need to do our steps. We have 2/3 minus 1/2. How do I know it was minus? Oh, I know it's minus because we had a certain amount before and we used 1/2, and we need to know how much is left over. So that subtraction sign is because of how much we have left. Let's do this together. We need to find the least common denominator of 2 and 3. Well, the multiples of 3 are 3. 3 times 2 is 6. 3 times 3 is 9. And now let's do the same thing for 2. 2 times 1 is 2. 2 times 2 is 4. 2 times 3 is 6. And woo, we have our winner, ding, ding, ding. So I'm going to stop. Our least common denominator is 6. Now I need to write them both as a fraction over with a common denominator of 6, our equivalent fractions. How do I get from 3 to 6? Times 2. Whatever I do to the denominator, do the same thing to the numerator. 2 times 2 is 4. And we're going to do the same thing with 1/2. What do I do to 2 to get 6? Multiply it by 3. 1 times 3 is 3. And now I have 3/6 and 4/6. So I'm going to rewrite my question. 4/6 minus 3/6, and that is equal to 1/6. Now it's really important, word question, you need a word answer. We have 1/6 of a yard left. If you do not write the word yard, you are going to lose a point. Make sure you give me those units. And that's all for now. See you later.